Thank you. The Scottish Secular Society.
I'd just like to take the opportunity to thank everyone for being here and for being invited to talk here. How do I follow up with that? Thanks a lot. I'm going to talk about secularism now, so you can all get your Kindles out. I don't know if anyone in here actually understands what secularism is and what it means to Scotland, so I'll quickly touch on it. My own journey to GallYES was quite an easy one, to be honest with you. I moved up here from Manchester, age 6. My mum wanted to get away from a very abusive father. She'd had quite enough of his beatings and ended up marrying. She was a Christian and she ended up marrying a Muslim man, which in 1977 you can imagine was a fairly horrendous position to be in. So being English with a Muslim stepfather moving to the parochial mining village of Cardenden wasn't exactly a treat, for want of a better term. There was many an incidents that lasted for a few years, hence the reason I started going to the gym and doing a bit of training in my teenage years and looked after myself. But through having a Christian mother and a Muslim stepfather, it introduced me to two very different religious ideologies. They got to a point where they actually gave up on their faiths. And this led to me being a very angry atheist from a very young age. My first real run-in with religion was when I refused to sing Hosanna in what was called music in primary 7. I think we all remember our music classes. It was nothing to do with music whatsoever. It was all about indoctrination to hymns. So because I'd stopped singing it in the middle of the hymn, my primary school teacher had noticed this, pulled me over to the side after the class and said, "Spencer, why did you stop singing?" And I said, "Well, why do I have to sing?" "Well, it's about God, and you've got to worship God." And I said, "But that's your God, that's not my God." So she wrote this little note. She says, "Here, take that down to the headmaster." I went down to the headmaster's office, and he had a wee read of it, and he says, "Right, give me 2 seconds." Went into his cupboard, unlocked the cupboard, and got, I don't know if you remember, if anyone was fortunate enough to get corporal punishment in school, but I got the strap, which was a long leather belt with like a snake forked tongue on the end of it. So because of my insolence in refusing to sing a hymn, I got 5 of the best. However, his eyesight wasn't particularly great, and he actually caught me on the wrist 3 times, which led to him slicing my wrist open. And it ended up me being in Victoria Hospital in Kirkcaldy for the night. And when I got home, my mum's reaction to that was, "Well, why don't you just fucking do what you're told, Spencer?" And I thought, wait a minute here. I don't get this. I don't get this form of punishment for not being involved in a collective worship. So that manifested quite angrily through my teenage years. And talking about the social demographic of where that takes you, I couldn't cope with this anger, and my only way of channeling it at that time was to get very much involved. Unfortunately, it was football hooliganism, and again, that's like the gentleman to my right here. It becomes a social outlet for something that is the only place you feel you can express yourself through violence, because that was the community I was in. So through my 20s, I managed to pull myself out of that nonsense. I got my degree, educated myself. And I thought, where can I take my atheism? You know, I was really angry with it. I didn't know how to deal with it. Atheism is a philosophy, so you can't really take it anywhere. So I wanted to politicise it. So I started paying much more attention to secularism, which for me is a natural place that everyone should arrive at. Now, secularism is not an atheist position. It welcomes all of those of no religion, and it welcomes all other religions. We have pagans in our admin team. We have Christians in our admin team. Scottish Secular Society themselves have 1,500 Facebook members and 1,000 members on the site. We're incredibly proactive as a group. We have 2 recent petitions into the government. We had one about religious observance and how it should not be forced upon children in schools. And we currently have one that addresses the issue of creationism being presented or to challenge scientific fact in school. And over the last 5-6 months, it became quite noticeable to ourselves through some of the discussions on Facebook and a lot of the way the dialogue was moving that many of our members believed in supporting an independent Scotland and backing it. So we polled them. We polled 1,500 members on Facebook, and we polled 1,000 of them on the website, and 94% responded in favour of coming out to support GallYES as an organisation. So we thought this was absolutely amazing. So we went public. We're very fortunate. One of our admin team is Dr. Elliot Bulmer. I don't know if anyone's familiar with Elliot's work, but he wrote the book A Model Constitution for an Independent Scotland, and he's actually talking for us at the CCA on Thursday night. You're all welcome. So he put our position statement out, and the reasoning behind why we all agree to support a yes vote is that from the very top, it's fairly obvious. Overnight, we get rid of 26 unelected bishops in the House of Lords. Now, could you imagine a Scottish government forming a constitution and setting aside a position or a place within our legislative processes purely for 26 white males who are of a particular religious denomination and considering no others? You just couldn't imagine that. Yet, currently, that is the status quo. That's what we have to tolerate. A second chamber in the highest legislature of the land that's allowed to make decisions on our everyday life. For me, that's a no-brainer. It has to be a yes vote for that. So we get rid of that. It then allows us to streamline what we do as a secular society. We're not distracted by what goes on at a national level. There are still many. There's still a huge imbalance and a massive democratic deficit with religion in Scotland, particularly when it comes to education committees, school education committees in particular. I don't know if you're aware, but in the Scottish legislation, the 1980 Education Act of Scotland, each school must have by law 3 educational religious representatives that could be Hindu, Catholic, Protestant or Muslim. It doesn't matter. But they predominantly are Church of Scotland. Now, to their own figures, the Church of Scotland only represent 8% of Scots. We only have 8% of Scots that adhere, so we have 92% of Scots do not adhere to the Church of Scotland's tenets. However, they run 85% of Scottish education establishments, preaching, proselytising and forced prayer on our children, which I think in itself is an entirely different matter, but it shouldn't be allowed. So we don't want that. And from a constitutional, from a national point of view as well, if we stay with the current status quo, and we look at what's happening in England, and for me personally, I think it's absolutely hideous what is going on with UKIP and the approach that they're taking with immigrants and immigration. I don't want to be part of that. I don't want Scotland to be a part of that. Scottish secular societies certainly do not want to be part of that. If we leave Europe, we leave the European Commission for Human Rights. Now, the Commission for Human Rights protects us all. It protects all religions equally, and it protects everyone of freedom from religion as well. That will be taken away from us if we don't vote yes. There's a million and one other things I could go on about regarding religion and secularism and anything, but I don't want to. But as a secular society, we found it quite easy to arrive at voting for yes. And what we want to do is continue that we argue that case, and we take that case everywhere we go. Hence the reason that come Thursday night we're going to be publicly declaring and why our position for yes is such. Thanks. Secular Society, Gary Otten.
Thank you. I'd like to thank, I'm the founder of the Scottish Secular Society and the author of Religious Fascism, the repeal of Section 28. I'm very proud of our new chair, Spencer Fildes, for actually formally going with independent Scotland. I think it's good for Scotland for the one reason that the United Kingdom is a theocracy, and that is not understood, and it really should be, and I'd like to know why not. The United Kingdom, the highest legislature of the land, is the House of Lords, and it also has a defender of the faith. The defender of the faith is an old lady who has some corgis, and she is the monarch, and she is a defender of the Church of England. That's my faith, officially, not yours. And at the front of this highest legislature is the bishop's bench, with 26 unelected bishops that can stall legislation, that can push it back to the House of Commons and play to and fro for a bit, that has stalled many equal rights measures for LGBT people, that can do so much damage, and yet they have so much power. And at the front of the House of Lords, these 26 unelected clerics from the Church of England sit protected by the defender of the faith. And this defender of the faith, this queen, permits this through legislation, has these 26 unelected bishops from only the Church of England. So, if you're from the Kirk, the Church of Scotland, you don't have bishops, you have ministers, Presbyterian. So you're not permitted, you're not allowed. If you're Catholic, this is a lot of party, isn't it? If you're Catholic, you are not allowed either. Your bishops are not allowed on that bench. You no right to be there. If you're from Wales, you're not established. So you're not allowed there either. And if you're from Northern Ireland, same goes for you too. You're not established. Islam, we won't even go there. The 18th of September is an important time for all of us. We've got to grow a spine. We've got to get out there. We've got to vote, not for a theocratic nation, and give Iran a run for its money. We're one of the last theocratic nations in the Western world. But we've got to vote to be democratic. Do it.